What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be creating a tool discography poster in the style of the design of the New York City subway system. Before we get started, please make sure you're subscribed to support the channel. Okay, so since we're going to be designing this in a Swiss style, I'm going to go ahead and open up my Swiss grid. And right here is my Swiss grid. It is set up for 18 by 24 inches. If you haven't seen the video on how to create this, go ahead and check that out right up here. All right, so I'm just going to go up here to View, Guides, and Unlock Guides. And now I'm going to select everything, hit copy, and bring it over here, and come over to this document and hit paste. And since nothing is grouped together, I'm going to go ahead and group all of those guides together, make sure that Align to Artboard is selected in my Align panel, and now I'm going to click on Horizontal Align Center and Vertical Align Center. And now we can lock those guides. Okay, so a New York City subway design system has a black background usually, so let's go ahead and lay that down, and I'm going to make this not completely black because we're going to be bringing this into Photoshop, and I'm going to apply some effects to make it look a little bit more vintage. Now we can lock this black layer, and since it's now 2025, I can use Helvetica in my posters again. All right, so I'm going to set a pretty large base size for the word tool right here, and I'd like for everything to be divisible by 30. So we'll set this at 240, and let's go ahead and align this to a grid line right up here. I want to make sure it's right there on that line. Let's take a look at it without the guides, and I think that this is looking pretty good so far. As far as the placement goes, I may move things around just a little bit. All right, first thing we need to do is to kern this, so let's get some kerning going on here. You want it to be a little bit closer than the default kerning, but you don't want it to run into it, and you don't want it to look too crowded. All right, now I'm going to duplicate this down, and we're going to divide this by 4. And I'm just going to type out the word discography. And let's set this to optical kerning, and then I'll go in and manually kern. All right, that's looking good, and we'll go ahead and set this right here on top of that gutter. And from a visual perspective, we will bring this all the way over to that grid line. Okay, so now I'm going to create the structure of how the track listings are going to show. And I've already kind of done a little bit of the math here. What we need to do is create 17 circles going across. And now we will select both of these and double click on our blend tool. So we're going to go over here to specified steps. We need to type 15 in here because that's going to be 15 steps in between these two to make a total of 17. So hit OK, and now we're going to activate our blend tool. Okay, we want these to be right next to each other, but we don't want them to overlap. So with my direct select tool, I'm going to select both of these circles. And now I'm going to hit the S tool on my keyboard and hit enter. That's going to bring up our scale tool. I'm going to bring this down to about 90%. And now again with the direct select tool, I'm going to bring this over here, bring this over here. Okay, so obviously they are still overlapping, so you kind of have to play around with it a little bit. Okay, so there's a little bit of spacing in between these, but that's actually perfectly fine. They don't have to be right up next to each other. Okay, so now I'm going to create a duplicate of this, and let's go ahead and match the spacing that's in between here. Okay, now I'm going to select our blend. Let's go up here to Object, Expand, and expand Object and Fill, and hit OK. And now I'm going to ungroup everything, and let's select all of these and then duplicate this down. And let's match the spacing right here. So I'm going to grab my rectangle tool and just draw a little line in between there. And now we can just rotate that. I'm going to select this whole row of circles here, group them together, and now we can just select one of these circles, select this rectangle, and then select this whole row of circles here. And now we're going to align to a key object, which is this circle right here. So let's go over to the Align panel and type in 0, and we're going to click on Vertical Distribute Space. So now it takes into account the spacing of that rectangle. Okay, so I just realized that we have a line going directly down the center that's actually going through one column of these circles. We don't want that because what we want is to be able to create an uppercase T with this, and we need for 2 circles to be right next to each other. So what we're going to do is peel off 2 of the circles right here, and now we can select everything here, hold down Shift, and enlarge this. So now when we create our vertical piece for this, we can just go like this. And now we'll hit Command D to duplicate that all the way down to the bottom. All right, so now let's select all these circles that make up this T and align it to the bottom of that guide right there. Okay, so we actually have 62 circles right here, but we really need 65. All right, so I'm going to peel off 2 of these and bring this over here. And then bring 1 over here to this side. It kind of creates like a dimensional T right here. All right, now we need to create the colors for the design system. All right, so here is the official color palette for the New York City subway design system. And now I'm just gonna randomly click on some of these circles right here, and we're gonna color these just randomly. All right, that's looking good. Now what we're gonna do is assign a 1-letter or 2-letter system for each one of the track listings on all of their albums. And as you can see, I've already taken care of this behind the scenes because I figure you probably didn't want to see that process. Okay, so rather than going through and kerning every single one of these individually, I'm just gonna go ahead and select optical kerning. And then I'll bring the tracking down to about -30. All right, now we need to set a base size for the font. And I think that no matter how long it gets, that 30 should be good, but we'll probably bring it down to 25 just to be on the safe side. Actually, let's bring it up to 27 just to make sure that it fills in that space a little bit better. Let's take a look at the HM right there. That's looking good. All right, now comes the fun part. What I need to do is create outlines and create these in their own individual groups and then align them each to the circle. I'll show you how to do this once and then I'll speed up the rest of the process. So with all of this text selected, we're going to create outlines. And now we're going to ungroup everything. And I'm going to select this S and select this red circle. Click on it one more time to set a key object and go over to Align and Horizontal Align Center and Vertical Align Center. And we'll do the same thing with the H right here. But now that we have this one right here, the PM, we actually need to group this together first. And now we'll align to the key object just like this. And now I'm going to follow the same pattern and I'm going to speed up this process. Okay, so we now have every track, even the album Opiate, included in this visual representation. And let's take a look around here just a little bit. I'm thinking that we can actually enlarge these letters a little bit more because if you look at the New York City subway design system, the letters are a little bit larger than this. So in order to do this, we actually have to select all of the letters inside of the circles, but not the circles themselves. The fastest way to do this is going to be to select the same fill color. However, the word tool and discography are also the same fill color, so we need to select both of those and lock them. So now let's select the first one here, and now we'll go to Select, Same, Fill Color. And now we're going to go up to Object, Transform, and Transform Each. So we're going to make sure that our reference point is at the center, and let's go ahead and bring this up to 125%. Make sure that these are locked so it's scaling the vertical and the horizontal. And I'm thinking we can scale it up to about 110%. We got to take a look at this WM right here. We want to make sure that it doesn't go outside of those bounds. So it's a little bit close, but we're okay. And because we kept the reference point at the center, then everything is still centered inside the circles. And now again, we're going to select everything that's white. So go up here to Select, Same, Fill Color. And now we need to double click on this white and go over here and bring it down to about 94%. And the reason we're doing that is because we're going to be bringing this into Photoshop and we're going to apply some effects and layers to it. If you have something that's either 100% white or 100% black, those effects and layers are not going to show. So really quickly before we bring this over into Photoshop, let's duplicate this over here and let's put down some years. So Opiate was released in 1992 and Fear Inoculum was released in 2019. Let's go ahead and kern this. I want it to be just a little close, but not too tight in here. And yes, for all of you type nerds out there, I did use an in dash instead of a hyphen. And for those of you who may not know, an in dash is the proper use to designate a duration of time. You don't want to use just a regular hyphen for that. I'll show you the difference. This is an in dash and this is a hyphen. And to create an in dash, if you're on a Mac, hold down Option and press the hyphen button. And if you're on Windows, hold down Alt and type 0150 and then release Alt. All right, our baseline is aligned to our grid, so let's make sure that we are aligning this to the right side of the grid. All right, everything is looking good. Let's go ahead and lock our background to make sure we don't pick that up. And let's select everything that we've got here on our artboard. And now I'm going to hit copy. All right, now I'm creating a new document in Photoshop with a width of 18, a height of 24, and a resolution of 300. All All right, first thing I'm gonna do is create a new fill layer. And remember, like we said earlier, we don't want this to be 100% black, so I'm gonna make this 10%. And I'm gonna hit paste, and we're gonna paste as a smart object and hit OK. And as long as we are centered on the document, then we're in good shape. All right, the first overlay we're gonna add here is gonna be this photocopy texture. So we'll bring this all the way in here. And now we'll scale this up. I'm holding down Option and Shift to make sure that we cover all of those bounds right there. And now I'm gonna go over here and change my blending mode to lighten. So as you can see, because we enlarged it, we've got a little bit of pixelation here, and we can take care of that by adding a noise layer. So let's add a new layer. So we're gonna hit Shift and Delete to fill with 50% gray. We're gonna go up here to Filter, Noise, and Add Noise. And I'll bring this up to about 20%, and hit OK. And we're gonna change our blending mode to Overlay. So let me zoom in so you can see exactly what that did. So let's turn off our noise layer, and right here underneath it, you can actually see the pixelation going on here. But if we add a noise layer to the top, it makes it look a lot more natural. And one thing we could do is go up here to Blur and Gaussian Blur, and we can blur that noise layer just a little bit to make sure that the noise doesn't appear too clean. So I think we can bring it down to 0.5 pixels and we hit OK. Everything's looking good. All right, and now I'm gonna add this black wrinkled paper to the top of it as well. So we'll align this to the center and scale it. And now we'll change our blending mode to Difference. So let's zoom in and see how that's looking. It is darkening our artwork just a little bit, so let's go in here and add a curves layer. And before we make any adjustments, let's make sure that we clip the curves layer to our wrinkled paper layer. And now we're gonna lower this a little bit so we can brighten up those colors a little bit more. And feel free to play around with that on your own artwork. Okay, the very last thing I'm gonna do is give a slight blur to our artwork. And the reason we're doing that is this is meant to look like a vintage poster. So this was obviously printed a long time ago. So there's gonna be a little bit of that ink set in, and it's gonna appear slightly blurred because we don't want this to look too clean. So let's select our Vector Smart object, go up here to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur. And remember, we need this to be just so slight, so maybe 0.25 pixels, and that should take care of that. So here it is before, and here it is after. It is a very subtle difference. I don't even know if you'll be able to see it through the video, but it's one of those small changes that makes a huge difference. All right, I'm gonna do one last thing, and the reason why is the type is still appearing a little bit too bright for me. So I'm gonna double click on my Vector Smart Object layer and go in here to our layer style. So we're gonna use the Blend If Gray tool. What this is gonna do is blend it with the next layer down. So that's gonna be this color fill layer right here. And what we need to do is hold down Option or Alt and click on this little left caret. And we're gonna bring it all the way until we start seeing that color kind of fade a little bit. And when we get down to about 12, you can actually see the grain textures showing through this type right here. And that's exactly what we want. So let's hit OK. So here is our final product, a Tool Discography poster in the style of the New York City subway design system. Each one of these circles represents a track from their albums. I hope I taught you something in this video, and I hope you enjoyed watching. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.